folks, welcome back. That was a little graphic presentation of the theory that I've developed over this past 2 years. When I started off looking at alternative energy and renewable energy, I found there were more questions than what I could get answers for. It prompted me to go and look at the nuclear physics. I went into subatomic, quantum level, and still it seems to me that everybody was building a house with the walls and the roof, but they never put a foundation at the bottom of it. And because we don't understand the foundation, we don't understand what is the origin of the universe and of every single atom that we have all around us, I think that is the reason why we fail to achieve the heights and the developed stage that we by this time should be. Yes, we came a long way, but I'm sure we could have gone much further if we were not on a sidetrack. This video, I'm going to present the theory that I've developed, and much of it is, most people will say I'm bonkers, I'm stupid, I'm ridiculous. I don't care. I don't need to prove myself to anybody, and whether people believe me, they don't believe me, it's their problem. What I have is that this thing for me does make sense. It makes a lot of sense, and it is the foundation on which I'm going to do my experiments in the future. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We will see. But if I was not convinced that there was a valid reason for all of this, I would not spend the hundreds of hours that I have done just to make this video presentable. On the origin of the universe, the generally accepted theory is that of Albert Einstein about the Big Bang, that there was a point of singularity. From the singularity, there was a big, huge explosion, and it took a few milliseconds to this, and a few seconds to that, and a few days to that, until we have the various force fields, which is the electrical, the magnetic, the gravity, the strong and weak and strong nuclear forces. However, there is not really for me a fully acceptable or a logical explanation behind all of that. I've gone very intensively through it, but it didn't make sense to me. My first clue came probably about 1.5 years, or a little bit more, less than that, when I was looking into the work of Nikola Tesla, and particularly I was trying to follow the road that Nikola Tesla himself had to walk until he reached his discoveries. On a few occasions, Nikola Tesla reverted back or referred back to Bible studies, to understanding Bibles, to the secrets that are embedded into the Bible, and that was his guidance. Later on in his life, he was also referring to the Bhagavad Gita, to the Indian Vedic religions and their scriptures. So I have studied these about 25 years ago, and so it was very easy for me to go back into that and see where is it possible that Nikola found his answers. Initially, I found one, and that was in Genesis 1 verse 2. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. You know, there is a problem with that, because how could God make the light if he didn't make the sun yet? How could light be before the sun? Strangely enough, if we go and look at other versions of the creation, and we can go back to the Indian, the Indus Valley, we can go back to Mesopotamia, to the Sumerians, to the Canaanites, to Egyptians, the Maori, in Australia, the Pacific Islands, we can go to Chinese, we can go to some parts of the American Indian histories. We all find that the first creation was light, and then from light everything else came. In our modern physics, we know that there is light, and we consider light as an electromagnetic force or an electromagnetic field. But we do not realize that there must be a hell of a lot more behind light than what we know on this stage. So I developed my theory around light and say, okay, light and photons, but then I came to realize that no, there must be a problem, because light is not photons and photons is not light. There seems to be a discrepancy between the two. So light is a separate entity and photons is another separate entity. But what came then is that how could light became photons? There was a missing link, and that missing link has kept me busy for the minimum part of this past year. few weeks ago I was reading some ancient translations of the Hindu scriptures of the Bhagavad Gita. Again, I was wondering about this, and to be honest, I actually started thinking that this is a complete waste of time. So better me stop all of this and go back to my boat building business and start making money again. However, there was a very peculiar part in this Vedic scriptures, and it says that in the beginning Brahma was not, Vishnu was sleeping on the lake of nothingness, and then he was awoken. He was awoken by a sound, by a deep rumbling. And I've read it a few times, but I never came to realize what it was. So suddenly I started thinking more about this sequence. There was a sound, there was a noise, there was something that woke Vishnu up. And then Brahma came, and Vishnu told Brahma to create everything and to start working. And the first thing that Brahma made was the light. So that night I went to sleep, quite late, maybe something like about 11:30, 12 o'clock, middle night. But I could not sleep. I was rolling around on bed, this side and that side and this side and that side. And about 2:30, 2:40 in the morning, I got up and I went to my computer, sat down, and I started writing. When the daylight came through, I saw that I wrote around 6 pages. Reading through it, it was unbelievable for me that I could write that. And it formed the basis of my whole new theory that I developed over only this past about 3 or 4 weeks. In this Indus Valley scriptures, or in the Bhagavad Gita, if we can refer it to that way, the key was that there was a sound. There was a deep rumbling within the nothingness that awoken Vishnu. So that set me off. And I started looking again. I went back to the Bible. And true behold, Genesis 1 verse 2 says, "And God said, let there be light." First, God said something. There was a sound, there was a noise, there was an action that was spoken. So I look further. I find in the Chinese that there was a spoken voice, there was a noise, there was a sound uttered. I found it in South American Indians. I found it everywhere. Everywhere where the creation of the universe was based on the first creation of light, I find actually that there was either reference to a voice of God, or a reference to a noise, a reference to a sound, a reference to a thunder of lightning, and all those kind of things. The Hindu scriptures actually gave a name to this sound. It is Om. If you make the sound Om, Om, you do it a few times, you will actually find an amazing result. You find that it has a calming effect even on yourself. That was the sound of creation. That was the voice of God. We have to look further into this. It is not a voice like we are hearing today, the vibration. My voice is vibrating through to the microphone that picks up the vibration, translates it to electrical signal, sends it to your computer, which sends it back to a speaker, and the speaker has a vibrating, and that is how you hear my voice. No, this was kind of a radio signal. It is not depending on any matter to transmit. It does not need solid air or anything to transfer from one point to another point. It also did not need a point of origin. In fact, most of this series is going to be about this sound, the possible applications of this sound in our experiments. Before I go further, there are 2 issues that I would just like to clear out. First of all, this is not a scientific presentation. It does not have mathematics in, it doesn't have a scientific language in. Secondly, some people sometimes sound upset with my English, and I should not do this, I should not do that. So please forgive my poor English. I am not an English speaking person. It is a second language for me. If I was making this video in Afrikaans, I'm sure it would have been much easier for me. But I doubt that you would understand me, and you most probably would not watch it. Now, let me review in short the creation of our universe, the very first stages that happens. In the beginning, there was nothing. There was a complete void of absolutely emptiness. The sea of nothingness was licking on the shores of nothingness. That's a wonderful description, come from the Indian. Now, within this big open cosmetic universe, stage, space, there was, well, nothing. That's the wonderful thing. Within this nothingness, there came to be a sound, the voice of God, a radio kind of signal. This radio kind of signal is described in most of the ancient references as God that spoke. In the Chinese, they are actually referring to thunder rumbling. So from the thunder, there came to be the separation in the air and the water. The Indus Valley, they say it was a rumbling. So from the depth of this ether, there came to be a rumbling, and the rumbling awoken Vishnu from his sleep. So however the sound is, that is the most important thing to realize. The sound caused a rumbling, a movement within the ether. That movement created light. The moment that we have light, we also have darkness. Darkness was not created, and darkness was not there before. But because light was created, light automatically displaces the darkness wherever it is possible, and the darkness, well, it was there. The light was very critically, it was very important, because on the next step of the creation, the sound of God, or the radio signal, causes stirring within the ether. And the ether started separating into two sections. One section was electrically positive charged, the other section was electrically negative charged. But what happens when you put a positive and negative charge of electricity together? You find there's a big bang, there's an explosion, there's a white light, and there is no more electricity. So the light was acting as a dielectric. It was keeping the two charges of the electricity separated from each other. Here we have the four building blocks of the universe: light, darkness, positive electrical energy, and negative electrical energy. And the only thing that causes a change in all of these things is a radio kind of signal, the voice of God.